The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. While we have conducted extensive research into the historical trends and corporate data of the American automotive industry, this video does not constitute professional investment, financial, or legal advice regarding the collector car market or the current valuation of automotive stocks. The automotive industry is subject to extreme volatility, and historical performance is not indicative of future results. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence and consult with the licensed professional before making any significant financial decisions related to the purchase, restoration, or investment in classic or modern vehicles. Imagine walking into a showroom in 1955. The air smells of fresh rubber and high-gloss lacquer. Before you stands a chrome-laden Cadillac Eldorado, a machine so massive and opulent it seems to defy the very laws of physics. At that moment, the American car wasn't just a tool for transportation. It was the ultimate symbol of global hegemony. But fast forward to today, and the landscape looks unrecognizable. We have seen the giants of Detroit teeter on the edge of total collapse, the rise of silent electric monoliths, and the disappearance of legendary nameplates that once defined the American dream. The shocking reality is that out of the hundreds of American car companies that existed at the turn of the 20th century, only a handful of major players remain. We aren't just looking at a change in design. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in the American identity. If you think the story of the American car is just about engines and steel, you are missing the high-stakes corporate warfare, the secret government interventions, and the cultural revolutions that changed how every single person on this planet moves from point A to point B. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand exactly how we got here, why the muscle car era was actually a desperate gamble for survival, and what the historical data tells us about which brands are currently positioned to dominate the next century and which ones are destined for the scrapyard of history. To truly understand the evolution of America's most iconic car brands, we have to go back to the chaotic brass era of the early 1900s. This was a time of absolute digital, or rather mechanical, anarchy. There were no standards, no massive factories, and certainly no dominance by the Big Three. In fact, in the year 1900, steam-powered vehicles and electric carriages actually outsold gasoline-powered cars in major U.S. cities like New York and Chicago. The internal combustion engine was considered loud, dangerous, and unreliable. This is where the first major case study in American industrialism begins: the Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford didn't just invent a car. He invented a way to build them that would eventually bankrupt almost every other small-scale manufacturer in the country. Before the Model T, cars were luxury items for the ultra-wealthy, hand-built by craftsmen over weeks or months. Ford's introduction of the moving assembly line in 1913 reduced the time it took to build a chassis from 12.5 hours to just 1 hour and 33 minutes. This wasn't just a technical achievement, it was an economic weapon. By driving the price of the Model T down from $825 in 1908 to just $260 by 1925, Ford effectively democratized mobility. However, this success created a massive blind spot that nearly destroyed the company. Ford believed that people only wanted utility. His famous, though perhaps apocryphal, quote, "Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants so long as it is black," represented a rigid adherence to efficiency over consumer desire. This rigidity opened the door for a different kind of titan, General Motors. While Ford focused on a single, unchanging product, Alfred P. Sloan at GM realized that as the market matured, people would want variety. He pioneered the concept of a car for every purse and purpose. This was the birth of the brand hierarchy we still see today. If you were a young worker, you bought a Chevrolet. As you got promoted, you moved up to a Pontiac, then an Oldsmobile, then a Buick, and finally the ultimate sign that you had arrived was a Cadillac. This ladder of success transformed the automobile from a utilitarian tool into a status symbol. It introduced the world to planned obsolescence, the idea that last year's model should look outdated compared to this year's version. This strategy drove American consumerism to unprecedented heights through the 1920s and set the stage for the massive industrial output of the mid-century. But the evolution wasn't a straight line upward. The Great Depression served as a brutal Darwinian filter. Thousands of independent manufacturers, from the ultra-luxurious Duesenberg and Packard to the innovative Cord, found themselves unable to compete with the sheer scale and capital of the Big Three: Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Chrysler, the latecomer to the group, survived by focusing on engineering excellence. Walter P. Chrysler's company became known for the Engineering Company, introducing high-compression engines and four-wheel hydraulic brakes long before they were industry standards. This period proved that in the American market, you needed more than just a good product. You needed a massive distribution network and the ability to weather extreme economic downturns. As we moved into the post-World War II era, the American car underwent its most dramatic physical transformation. This was the age of the tailfin wars. Flush with victory and economic prosperity, American designers like Harley Earl at GM began drawing inspiration from Lockheed P-38 Lightning fighter planes. Cars grew longer, wider, and lower. This wasn't just aesthetic. It was a reflection of the American mindset of the 1950s, limitless growth and technological superiority. The 1959 Cadillac Fleetwood, with its towering 42-inch tail fins, remains the high watermark of this era of excess. It was a time when the potential outcomes of American engineering seemed infinite. We were building land yachts that could comfortably seat 6 people and cruise the newly constructed interstate highway system at 80 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. However, beneath the chrome and the V8 engines, the seeds of a crisis were being sown. The American manufacturers had become complacent. They were so focused on style and size that they ignored a growing demand for efficiency and reliability. The 1960s saw the birth of the muscle car, a brief but glorious era where brands like Pontiac, with the GTO, and Ford, with the Mustang, realized they could sell performance to a younger generation. The 1964 Mustang, in particular, was a masterclass in marketing. It used existing Falcon components to keep costs low but wrapped them in a body that looked like $1 million. It sold over 400,000 units in its first year alone, shattering all industry records. This was the peak of the internal combustion era, but the historical trends were about to shift in a way that Detroit never saw coming. By the early 1970s, the oil embargo and new environmental regulations hit the American car industry like a sledgehammer. Suddenly, the massive V8 engines that had defined the previous 2 decades were liabilities. This era, often called the Malaise era, saw iconic brands struggling to adapt. Engines were choked with early emissions equipment, resulting in cars that were large but painfully slow. It was during this period that foreign competitors, particularly from Japan, began to gain a foothold in the U.S. market by offering exactly what Detroit couldn't: small, fuel-efficient, and incredibly reliable vehicles. This wasn't just a loss of market share. It was a blow to the national ego. The evolution of the American car brand from this point forward became a story of survival, reinvention, and eventually, a radical pivot toward a future that would have been unimaginable to Henry Ford or Alfred Sloan. We are going to examine the granular details of how these companies fought back, the secret prototypes that never made it to production, and the data-driven reasons why some brands survived the 2008 financial crisis while others like Pontiac and Saturn were left behind. To understand why names like Pontiac and Saturn vanished while others endured, we must examine the internal corporate friction that occurred during the 1980s and 90s. This was the era of the brand identity crisis. Imagine you are an executive at General Motors in 1985. You have just overseen the launch of the X-Body cars, a front-wheel drive platform meant to compete with the rising tide of efficient imports. But there was a fundamental flaw in the execution. Instead of creating distinct experiences for each brand, the company engaged in aggressive badge engineering. A Chevrolet Cavalier looked and felt almost identical to a Pontiac Sunbird or an Oldsmobile Forenza. This dilution of brand equity is one of the most significant historical trends in the decline of the traditional American hierarchy. When a Cadillac Cimarron, essentially a dressed-up Chevy, hit the showrooms, it didn't just fail to sell. It actively damaged the prestige of the Cadillac nameplate. The data from this period shows a sharp decline in brand loyalty, as consumers realized they were paying a premium for a badge rather than a superior mechanical product. This loss of identity led to one of the most ambitious and expensive social and industrial experiments in American history: the birth of Saturn. In 1985, GM leadership realized they could not beat the Japanese manufacturers using their existing corporate culture. They needed a clean slate. They created Saturn as a different kind of car company, with its own dedicated factory in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and a completely unique relationship with labor unions. The Saturn S-Series used dent-resistant polymer body panels and a no-haggle pricing model that revolutionized the dealership experience. For a moment it worked. Saturn owners were famously loyal, often gathering for homecoming events at the factory. However, the internal politics of the Big Three eventually strangled the project. GM's other divisions grew jealous of Saturn's massive capital investment. By the late 1990s, Saturn was forced to share platforms with Opel and Chevrolet, losing the very uniqueness that made it a viable case study for success. The eventual shuttering of Saturn during the 2008 restructuring wasn't a failure of the brand's concept, but a failure of the parent company to protect its most innovative offspring from internal cannibalization. While GM was struggling with its identity, Chrysler was fighting for its very life. The story of the K car is perhaps the most high-stakes recovery narrative in industrial history. By 1979, Chrysler was months away from total bankruptcy. Lee Iacocca, having been fired from Ford, took the helm and did something unprecedented. He went to the United States government and asked for $1.5 billion in loan guarantees. This was not a bailout in the modern sense. It was a high-pressure gamble that the company could pivot to a new front-wheel drive architecture. The resulting K cars, the Dodge Aries and Plymouth Reliant, were not glamorous. They were boxy four-cylinder commuters, but they were exactly what the American public needed in the wake of the second oil shock. From this single platform, Chrysler derived everything from sedans and wagons to the revolutionary Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager. The minivan didn't just save Chrysler. It created an entirely new vehicle segment that dominated the American suburbs for 2 decades. This case study proves that in the American market, utility often trumps style during periods of economic instability. Then came the 1990s, a decade that would see the American car transform yet again. This time into something much larger and more profitable. The SUV. The Ford Explorer, launched in 1990, changed the DNA of the American driveway. Before the Explorer, SUVs were rugged, uncomfortable tools for off-roading, like the Jeep CJ or the International Scout. Ford realized that if they could make a truck-based vehicle ride like a car, and fill it with leather seats and premium audio systems, they could charge a massive premium. This shift was driven by a loophole in federal fuel economy standards, known as CAFE. Light trucks were held to lower efficiency standards than cars, allowing Detroit to build massive, heavy vehicles with high profit margins. By 1999, the Ford Expedition and the Lincoln Navigator were generating more profit per unit than almost any other vehicle in history. The American brands have finally found their niche again, moving away from trying to beat the Japanese at small cars, and instead doubling down on what America does best: size and power. But this reliance on SUVs and trucks created a massive vulnerability. In 2008, the global financial crisis combined with a spike in fuel prices to create a perfect storm. General Motors and Chrysler were forced into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This was a moment of reckoning that saw the permanent end of Pontiac, a brand that had defined the muscle car era with the GTO and the Firebird. It saw the end of Hummer, which had become a symbol of early 2000s excess. It saw the end of Mercury and Oldsmobile. The brands that survived were the ones that could prove a path toward global relevance and technological advancement. Ford managed to avoid bankruptcy by mortgaging everything, including the blue oval logo, just before the credit markets froze. This move allowed them to invest in the EcoBoost engine technology and the aluminum-bodied F-150, a radical departure from traditional steel construction that prioritized weight savings without sacrificing towing capacity. As we look at the landscape in 2026, the evolution has taken another sharp turn. We are no longer just looking at engines and transmissions, we are looking at software and silicon. The rise of Tesla and the subsequent pivot by the Big Three toward electrification has created a new hierarchy. The Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Chevrolet Silverado EV represent a desperate and brilliant attempt to port iconic 20th century names into a 21st century powertrain. Think about the audacity of using the Mustang name, a name synonymous with high-octane V8 performance, on an electric crossover. It was a calculated risk to ensure the brand's survival in a world where internal combustion is increasingly regulated. The historical trends show that the American consumer is willing to accept radical change, as long as the core promise of the brand, freedom, power, and status, remains intact. The data now points toward a future where the traditional car dealership might become a relic of the past, replaced by direct-to-consumer models and subscription-based features. We are seeing brands like Cadillac reinventing themselves as ultra-luxury electric marques with vehicles like the Celestiq, aiming to reclaim the standard of the world title they held in the 1950s. But this transition is fraught with danger. The cost of developing these new platforms is staggering, and the competition is no longer just coming from Japan or Germany, but from a wave of high-tech manufacturers in China and the tech giants of Silicon Valley. Imagine a scenario where your car is no longer something you own, but a service you access, and the brand on the hood matters less than the operating system on the screen. This is the existential threat facing Detroit today. The evolution of America's car brands has moved from the assembly line to the design studio, to the engineering lab, and now to the data center. The question is no longer how many horsepower a car has, but how many teraflops its autonomous driving processor can handle. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to go behind the closed doors of the secret design studios where the next generation of American icons are being born. We will uncover the true story of the failed supercar that almost destroyed Ford's reputation, and look at the classified documents that reveal why the US government really stepped in to save the auto industry in 2009. You will see why the most important vehicle in the history of the American car wasn't the Model T or the Mustang, but a vehicle that most people have completely forgotten. The stakes have never been higher, and the next chapter of this evolution will determine if the American car brand remains a global powerhouse or becomes a museum piece of a bygone industrial age. Stay with us as we dive into the secret history of the prototypes that were too dangerous to build. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The historical analysis of automotive prototypes and corporate strategies presented in this video is based on public records and industry research. It does not constitute professional engineering, financial, or safety advice. The discussion of experimental technologies, including nuclear-powered concepts and high-performance engineering, is intended to illustrate industrial trends and does not encourage the modification of vehicles or the pursuit of high-risk automotive activities. Viewers are advised to consult with certified automotive professionals and follow all local safety regulations. The secret history of American automotive prototypes is not merely a collection of failed designs. It is a roadmap of the industry's greatest fears and most audacious dreams. To understand where we are in 2026, we have to look at the machines that were deemed too radical, too expensive, or quite literally too dangerous for the public. These were the forbidden machines, the ones that executives kept locked away in windowless warehouses in Dearborn and Warren because they knew the world wasn't ready, or because the physics of the era simply couldn't keep up with the ambition. Take, for instance, a case study in atomic ambition, the 1958 Ford Nucleon. Imagine a world where, instead of pulling into a gas station, you pulled into a specialized facility to swap out a radioactive core. The Nucleon was designed around the concept of a modular nuclear reactor positioned in the rear of the vehicle, as far away from the cabin as possible. Ford engineers theorized that a single core could power a car for 5,000 miles before needing replacement. While it sounds like science fiction today, this was a serious engineering study during the height of the atomic age. The potential outcomes were theoretically revolutionary: zero tailpipe emissions and incredible range, but the safety implications were catastrophic. In an era before advanced crash testing and crumple zones, the idea of a fissionable core involved in a 60-mile-per-hour head-on collision was a deal-breaker. The project was shelved, but it serves as a haunting reminder of the American obsession with total energy independence. Fast forward to the mid-1990s, and the obsession shifted from nuclear energy to sheer, unadulterated speed. This brings us to the Ford GT90, perhaps the most significant forgotten hypercar in history. Unveiled in 1995, the GT90 was a quad-turbocharged V12 monster that produced 720 horsepower at a time when a Ferrari F50 was only pushing 513. It featured an exhaust system so incredibly hot that it required ceramic tiles, the same material used on the space shuttle, to prevent the body panels from melting into a puddle of carbon fiber. During journalist test drives, Ford reportedly had to jam the wastegates on the turbos because they were terrified the car would literally tear itself apart on the track. The GT90 was the first car to showcase the new edge design philosophy, which would eventually trickle down into the Focus and the Mustang. But as a production vehicle, it was deemed too volatile. It was a machine that existed on the absolute bleeding edge of what 20th century tires and cooling systems could handle. But prototypes aren't just about speed. They are also about the high-stakes survival of the brand itself. Imagine if Chrysler had never produced the K-car, as we discussed previously, but instead had gone with some of their more experimental concepts like the 1990 Plymouth Voyager 3. This was a modular vehicle that could split in half. The front half was a 3-seat commuter car, and the back half was a 5-seat passenger compartment with its own separate engine. It was a Megazord on wheels. It was an elaborate answer to a question nobody was asking, but it showed that in the early 90s, American brands were desperately trying to reinvent the very definition of a car to fend off the rising tide of efficient, unified Japanese platforms. This leads us to the most critical pivot point in modern history, the 2009 restructuring. While many see the government intervention as a simple financial bailout, the data tells a much more complex story of industrial surgery. The United States government, through the Troubled Asset Relief Program, didn't just give GM and Chrysler money. They forced them into a state of corporate evolution. They demanded the removal of toxic brand debt, which led to the painful but necessary deaths of Pontiac, Saturn, Hummer, and Saab. These brands were discarded not because they lacked fans, but because the historical trends showed that a bloated portfolio was the single biggest threat to long-term viability. The companies that emerged from 2009 were leaner, more focused, and crucially, forced to invest in the technologies that define our current landscape in 2026. In the year 2026, we are seeing the direct results of those 2009 decisions. The American automotive landscape is no longer a battle of displacement and chrome. It is a battle of software-defined vehicles, or SDVs. Current case studies show that the profit margins for companies like Ford and GM are increasingly coming from post-sale services rather than the initial transaction. We are seeing a shift where a vehicle's value is determined by its ability to receive over-the-air updates that improve battery efficiency or unlock new autonomous driving features. The 2026 Ford F-150, for example, is as much a rolling data center as it is a pickup truck. It uses AI agents to monitor parts wear in real time, scheduling its own maintenance appointments before the driver even realizes a component is failing. However, this transition is not without its own set of dangers. We are currently witnessing a massive market recalibration. While the push for 100% electrification was the mantra just a few years ago, the data from 2025 and early 2026 shows that the American consumer is demanding more flexibility. This has led to the rise of multi-energy platforms. Brands like Chevrolet are now engineering vehicles that can house a traditional internal combustion engine, a hybrid system, or a full battery electric powertrain within the same chassis. This strategy allows them to pivot based on fluctuating energy prices and infrastructure readiness across the United States. It is a return to the modular thinking of the past, but with a level of precision that Henry Ford could never have imagined. The danger today isn't a radioactive core or melting body panels. The danger is the loss of the soul of the brand. When everything is built on a shared global platform and controlled by a central operating system, how does a Cadillac stay a Cadillac? How does a Jeep maintain its rugged identity when it's powered by the same electric motors as a luxury sedan? This is the central conflict of the modern era. The brands that are winning in 2026 are the ones that understand that the technology is just the delivery mechanism, the experience is the product. Consider the case of the modern muscle car. With the discontinuation of the internal combustion Challenger and Charger, Dodge has had to reinvent the very concept of muscle for an electric audience. They introduced synthetic exhaust notes and simulated gear shifts to maintain the visceral connection that American drivers crave. It is a psychological experiment as much as a mechanical one. If you take away the smell of gasoline and the vibration of a V8, can you still call it an American icon? The early sales data suggests that the answer is yes, but only if the brand can successfully bridge the gap between nostalgia and the future. We are standing at a crossroads. The evolution of America's most iconic car brands has been a 125-year cycle of boom, bust, and radical reinvention. We have moved from the assembly line to the atomic dream, from the brink of bankruptcy to the frontier of artificial intelligence. But there is one secret that Detroit has been hiding for decades. A secret that involves a hidden partnership with a global rival that completely changed the way every American truck is built today. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to expose the clandestine gentlemen's agreements that shape the modern truck market and look at the internal memos that reveal the true cost of the transition to electric power. You will discover why your favorite truck brand might not actually be as American as you think, and we will reveal the one vehicle that is currently being developed in total secrecy to replace the SUV as the new king of the American road. The story is about to get much more controversial. Stay with us. The secret to the dominance of the American pickup truck is not just a story of rugged engineering. It is a story of a clandestine protectionist shield and a series of gentlemen's agreements with the very rivals Detroit claim to be fighting. To understand the American driveway in 2026, we have to look at the chicken tax. This is not a metaphor. In 1964, in response to European tariffs on American chicken, President Lyndon B. Johnson retaliated with a 25% tariff on imported light trucks. This single piece of legislation effectively froze the American truck market in time, insulating Detroit from global competition for over 60 years. But while the public saw a battle between American steel and foreign imports, the reality behind the scenes was a web of deep-seated partnerships. Imagine if you bought a Chevy LUV in the 1970s, thinking you were supporting an American icon. In reality, you were driving an Isuzu. If you bought a Ford Courier, you were driving a Mazda. If you bought a Dodge D50, you were driving a Mitsubishi. These were known as captive imports. The Big Three, unable or unwilling to develop their own compact, fuel-efficient trucks to meet the rising demand of the 1970s, simply slapped their logos on Japanese engineering. This was a strategic shell game. The Japanese companies got access to the American market without building factories, and the American companies got to keep their customers without spending billions on research and development. This history of badge engineering created a hidden DNA in the American truck market that still exists today. One of the most significant case studies in this evolution is the new United Motor Manufacturing Incorporated, or NUMMI. In 1984, General Motors and Toyota did the unthinkable. They opened a joint venture plant in Fremont, California. GM wanted to learn the Toyota production system, the secret to Japanese quality, and Toyota wanted to see if they could build cars with American labor and unions. This partnership is the reason the modern Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra are built with the precision they have today. It was a cross-pollination of industrial cultures that forever changed how American trucks are manufactured. However, the data from the 1990s shows that while the manufacturing improved, the brands began to lose their distinctiveness. The historical trends shifted from unique mechanical identities to marketing identities. This brings us to the current year 2026, where the evolution of the brand has moved into the realm of the software-defined vehicle. We are seeing a new kind of gentleman's agreement, but this time it isn't about sharing engines. It is about sharing data and operating systems. The partnership between Ford and Google, or GM and Microsoft, represents a pivot where the brain of the truck is no longer built in Detroit, but in Silicon Valley. For the American consumer, this means that the 2026 Ford F-150 Lightning isn't just a truck. It is a subscription platform. Case study: the feature-as-a-service model. Imagine a driver named Marcus in 2026. Marcus buys a new electric Ram 1500 REV. The truck is physically capable of towing 14,000 pounds, but the software limits him to 8,000 pounds unless he pays a monthly Towing Pro subscription fee. This is the new frontier of the American car brand. It is no longer about what the machine can do, but what the brand allows it to do based on your digital tier. This shift is generating massive controversy, but the financial data suggests it is the only way these legacy brands can afford the multi-billion-dollar transition to electric power. But there is a new threat emerging that could make the SUV, the king of the American road for 30 years, completely obsolete. We are seeing the rise of the Electric Activity Vehicle, or EAV. This is the secret vehicle currently being developed in high-security design studios. The SUV was built on the premise of rugged utility, but the data shows that 85% of SUV owners never take their vehicles off-road. In 2026, we are seeing the emergence of vehicles like the rumored Project T3 from Ford and the Slate truck, a no-frills unibody electric pickup that is designed to be a mobile workstation. The EAV is a hybrid of a van, a truck, and a mobile office. It features modular interior components that can be swapped out in minutes. Imagine if your daily commuter could be converted into a camping rig or a delivery van by simply sliding in a different pod. This is the death knell for the traditional SUV. Why own a vehicle that is a compromise of everything when you can own a platform that is a specialist in whatever you need it to be today? The historical trends of the 1920s, a car for every purpose, are returning, but through modular software and hardware rather than different brands. However, the transition to these high-tech platforms has revealed a dark cost that the manufacturers are desperate to hide from the public. We have obtained internal memos from one of the Big Three that detail the catastrophic failure rates of their first-generation solid-state battery prototypes. The data suggests that the rush to market has led to engineering shortcuts that could result in a massive, nationwide recall of the very vehicles meant to save the industry. This isn't just a technical glitch. It is a systemic risk to the entire U.S. automotive economy. As we move into 2027 and beyond, the definition of an iconic brand is being rewritten. Is a brand still American if its batteries are sourced from China, its software is written in India, and its headquarters is a shell corporation in a tax haven? We are seeing a brand hollow out, where the emotional connection we have to names like Jeep or Chevrolet is being used to mask a globalized, homogenized product. The evolution has moved from the steel mills of the Rust Belt to the algorithmic black boxes of global finance. The most shocking revelation, however, involves the ghost brands. These are legendary names that were killed in 2009, like Pontiac and International Harvester, which are currently being revived in total secrecy. But they aren't coming back as you remember them. They are being reimagined as autonomous-only fleet brands, designed to remove the driver from the driving experience entirely. You will soon see the return of a famous nameplate on a vehicle that doesn't even have a steering wheel. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the classified Project Phoenix documents that detail the return of these dead brands. We will reveal which iconic 1960s muscle car is being brought back as an autonomous urban shuttle, and we will look at the real reason why the US government is suddenly pushing for a kill switch in every new car by 2027. This isn't just about cars anymore. It's about the end of the road as we know it. The data we have uncovered will change how you look at your own car forever. Do not miss the next chapter of the secret history of Detroit. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion of legislative acts, including the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and proposed amendments, is based on public record and does not constitute legal advice. Analysis of corporate strategies, including Project Phoenix and the revival of defunct automotive brands, is based on market trends and leaked industry reports. It should not be taken as financial advice or an endorsement of any particular vehicle or manufacturer. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence and consult with professional legal or financial counsel before making decisions related to vehicle purchases or automotive investments. The automotive world is currently being haunted by ghosts. In the boardrooms of the remaining giants, a strategy is unfolding that would have been considered corporate heresy just a decade ago. It is called Project Phoenix, and it is the clandestine effort to exhume some of the most beloved names in American history, not to recreate the past, but to trick us into accepting a radical, autonomous future. The data shows that the emotional equity held in brands like Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and International Harvester is worth billions. By wrapping controversial new technology in a blanket of nostalgia, manufacturers are betting they can bypass our natural resistance to the end of the traditional driving experience. Imagine if you saw a 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge pulling up to a curb in downtown Chicago in the year 2026. Your heart skips a beat. You expect to hear the rumble of a Ram Air 4 V8 engine. But as the door slides open automatically, you realize there is no engine noise. There is no steering wheel. There isn't even a driver's seat. Instead, the interior is a lounge-style arrangement of recycled fabrics and high-definition screens. This is the reality of the Project Phoenix prototypes currently being tested in secure urban corridors. The GTO name is being repurposed as an autonomous urban shuttle, a rolling digital workspace designed to move people through smart cities without a single human input. The historical trends suggest that by using a name synonymous with rebellion and freedom, the industry hopes to mask the fact that this vehicle is the literal opposite, a highly regulated, centrally controlled transport pod. But why the sudden rush toward this level of control? The answer lies in the most controversial piece of automotive legislation in American history, Section 24220 of the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. You might know it by its viral name, the Kill Switch Law. While industry lobbyists and safety groups have spent years calling it the HALT Act, honoring the Abbas family legacy to terminate drunk driving, the actual technical requirements have created a firestorm of privacy concerns in 2026. The law mandates that by 2027, every new car sold in the United States must be equipped with passive impairment detection technology. Here is the step-by-step reality of how this system works in a 2026 case study. Imagine a driver named Sarah. She gets into her car after a long shift. Sensors integrated into the steering wheel, and the driver's seat begin to monitor her heart rate and perspiration. An infrared camera in the dashboard tracks her gaze, looking for signs of fatigue or distraction. A set of sensors in the air vents passively, analyzes her breath for traces of ethanol. If the system's algorithm, which is proprietary and not subject to public audit, determines she is impaired, it can prevent or limit vehicle operation. In its mildest form, this means the car won't start. In its most extreme interpretation, which has led to the current political battle over the No-Kill Switches in Cars Act, the government could theoretically have the authority to remotely disable a vehicle during a pursuit or a state of emergency. The historical data from 2024 to early 2026 shows that while these systems are designed to save over 10,000 lives annually by preventing drunk driving, they have also opened a Pandora's box of cybersecurity risks. If a car has a kill switch that can be activated by an internal algorithm, It is only a matter of time before that same switch can be accessed by a hacker or a remote state actor. This is why the evolution of America's car brands is no longer an engineering race. It is a security race. The brands that win in 2026 will be the ones that can convince the American public that their safety shield is a protector, not a jailer. This tension between nostalgia and control is best exemplified by the most successful ghost brand revival to date, Scout Motors. For decades, the International Harvester Scout was a rugged, no-nonsense utility vehicle used by farmers and off-roaders across the United States. When Volkswagen Group acquired the rights to the name, they didn't just build a new EV. They built an entire American identity around a company headquartered in Virginia and manufactured in South Carolina. The 2026 Scout Traveler and Terra are masterclasses in brand psychology. They feature physical buttons, a mechanical feel, and even a gas-powered harvester range extender to combat the very real anxiety of a pure electric grid. The Scout case study proves that the American public is desperate for a return to mechanical honesty. People are tired of hidden subscriptions in cars that feel like smartphones on wheels. By reviving Scout, Volkswagen has created a buffer brand, a way to sell high-tech electric platforms under the guise of vintage American ruggedness. The data from early reservations shows that 70% of Scout buyers are not coming from other EV brands like Tesla. They are coming from traditional Ford and Chevy truck backgrounds. They are buying the story of the past to survive the transition to the future. However, behind the scenes of the Scout revival, there is a much more complex web of global finance. While the brand is marketed as American-born and American-built, the solid-state battery technology and the underlying software architecture are the result of a massive, multi-billion-dollar partnership with Asian tech conglomerates. This is the great paradox of the modern American car brand. The more American it looks on the outside, the more globalized it is on the inside. We are currently tracking internal memos from a secret summit held in Detroit in late 2025, where the heads of the Big Three met with representatives from the largest tech firms in Silicon Valley. The topic was the Unified Automotive OS. They are planning to move away from individual brand software and toward a single government-approved operating system that would standardize, kill-switch protocols and autonomous behavior across all American makes. This would effectively turn every car in the United States into a standardized node on a national grid. Imagine a world where your Ford and your neighbor's Chevy are running the exact same code, subject to the same remote updates, and governed by the same federal safety parameters. The only difference between the brands would be the shape of the plastic and the badge on the hood. This is the final stage of the brand hollow-out. We are watching the slow death of the automobile as a private, autonomous machine and its rebirth as a regulated public utility. But there is a resistance movement growing within the engineering community. A group of analog outlaws is working in secret to develop aftermarket modules that can bypass these central OS requirements, restoring true manual control to 2026 vehicles. This underground market is already worth millions, and it is setting the stage for a massive legal showdown between the right to repair and federal safety mandates. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to look at the software war of 2027. We will uncover the true story of the first major OS hijack, where a whole city's fleet of autonomous cars was held for ransom. We will also reveal the clandestine partnerships between Detroit and China that are being hidden under the guise of battery joint ventures. And we will show you the leaked blueprints for the vehicle that is designed to replace the police cruiser as we know it. The evolution is accelerating, and the next turn is the most dangerous one yet. Stay with us as we expose the true price of the smart road revolution. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion regarding automotive software vulnerabilities, international battery manufacturing partnerships, and law enforcement vehicle technology is based on historical trends, current industrial data, and publicly available corporate filings. This analysis does not constitute legal, cybersecurity, or investment advice. Any discussion of vehicle disabling technologies or hacking is for historical and educational context only and does not encourage illegal activities. Viewers are encouraged to research local privacy laws and consult with automotive security professionals regarding the digital safety of their vehicles. To understand the software war of 2027, we have to look at the events unfolding right now in 2026. The evolution of the American car brand has reached a stage where the chassis is secondary to the code. We are moving toward a unified automotive operating system. But this centralization has created a single point of failure that the industry is desperate to keep quiet. Imagine a morning in a tech-heavy city like Austin, Texas. A character named David wakes up and tries to summon his Ford Mustang Mach-E from his driveway via his smartphone. Instead of the car pulling up, he receives a notification on his screen. Vehicle access suspended. Pay $500 in cryptocurrency to regain control. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It is the nightmare of the OS hijack. In early 2026, a massive data breach at a major third-party software provider, the company responsible for the cloud-based telematics used by several American manufacturers, allowed a group of bad actors to send a dormant command to over 15,000 vehicles across the southern United States. The cars weren't stolen, they were simply bricked. The potential outcomes of this event sent shockwaves through Detroit. It proved that the more a brand integrates its identity with the cloud, the more it surrenders its sovereignty to the hackers of the world. The historical trends suggest that as we move toward 2027, the primary cost of owning an American car won't be the fuel or the electricity, but the cyber insurance required to keep your steering wheel from being held for ransom. This vulnerability is the direct result of the clandestine partnerships between Detroit and global tech giants. For the last 3 years, the American Big Three have been quietly outsourcing their software architecture to save on research and development costs. But the most controversial partnership isn't with Silicon Valley. It is with the battery titans of the East. While the political rhetoric in the United States emphasizes American-made and energy independence, the reality of the 2026 supply chain is a web of licensing agreements. Case study: the Ford Blue Oval Battery Park in Michigan. While the plant is owned by Ford, the technology inside is licensed from CATL, a Chinese battery giant. This is a strategic gray zone, where American brands use foreign intellectual property to build products they label as domestic. The data shows that 80% of the lithium iron phosphate or LFP batteries currently being installed in American entry-level EVs like the base Chevrolet Equinox EV or the Ford F-150 Lightning are produced using this licensed technology. Why? Because LFP is significantly cheaper and more durable than the nickel-cobalt-manganese chemistry traditionally used by US firms. This creates a brand paradox. On the surface, you are buying a vehicle from a company that was founded by Henry Ford or the Chevrolet brothers, but the fuel tank of that vehicle is a product of a globalized industrial machine that Detroit cannot yet replicate on its own. If these licensing agreements were to be revoked tomorrow due to geopolitical shifts, the production of American EVs would grind to a halt within 48 hours. This reliance on global tech and batteries has paved the way for the most radical transformation of public safety in American history: the end of the traditional police cruiser. For decades, the Ford Crown Victoria and the Dodge Charger were symbols of authority on the American highway. They were designed for high-speed pursuits and rugged durability. But in 2026, the data-driven evolution has produced the Sentinel Pod. This is a vehicle specifically designed to leverage the kill-switch laws we discussed in the previous part. Imagine a scenario where a suspect attempts to flee a traffic stop in a 2027 model year car. In the past, this would result in a high-speed chase, endangering the public. Today, the Sentinel Pod, an autonomous high-torque electric interceptor, doesn't need to chase the suspect. It simply transmits a disabling handshake to the suspect's vehicle through the smart road infrastructure. Within seconds, the suspect's car loses power, the doors lock, and the GPS coordinates are transmitted to the nearest precinct. The chase is over before it begins. The replacement of the police cruiser with these enforcement nodes represents the ultimate evolution of the brand from a tool of individual freedom to a tool of collective compliance. The manufacturers are selling these Sentinel Pods to cities as a way to reduce liability and increase safety, but the historical trends indicate that this level of control is causing a massive rift in the American psyche. We are seeing the birth of the analog resistance, a group of enthusiasts and engineers who are seeking out pre-2020 vehicles specifically because they lack the phone-home capabilities of the modern fleet. The data from the collector car market in 2026 is staggering. Prices for mid-2000s trucks and SUVs, vehicles that are reliable but technologically isolated, have skyrocketed by 45% in the last 18 months. People are paying a premium for the right to be off the grid. This has forced brands like Jeep to reconsider their strategy. Jeep is currently testing a Legacy Edition Wrangler that features no touchscreens, no cellular connectivity, and a purely mechanical fuel injection system. It is being marketed as the ultimate escape, a brand pivot that acknowledges that for many Americans, the most valuable luxury in 2027 isn't connectivity, it's privacy. But while some brands look backward to find their soul, the smart road revolution is pushing the rest of the industry into a world of dynamic infrastructure. By the end of 2026, major corridors like I-95 and I-10 are being outfitted with inductive charging strips embedded in the asphalt. This allows electric vehicles to charge while they are moving, theoretically giving them infinite range. However, this technology comes with a catch: the road tax 2.0. Your car's operating system tracks exactly how much energy you draw from the road and automatically debits your account per mile. There is no way to opt out. If your car is on the road, it is part of the transaction. We have uncovered leaked blueprints for a vehicle that is being developed in a joint venture between GM and a major national defense contractor. It is known internally as Project Aegis. It isn't an SUV and it isn't a truck. It is a civilian armored transport designed for an era of increasing social and environmental instability. It is a vehicle that treats the outside world as a threat and the interior as a sanctuary. It features biohazard air filtration, EMP-shielded electronics, and a tires-as-a-service model that uses non-pneumatic, airless wheels that cannot be punctured. This is the new king of the American road. Not a vehicle of status, but a vehicle of survival. The evolution has moved from the chrome fins of the 1950s to the software kill switches of the 2020s, and now to the fortress on wheels of the late 2020s. We are witnessing the final disintegration of the car as a social communal object. It is becoming a private, secure, and highly monitored pod. But there is one final secret that the industry is desperate to hide. A secret that involves the true source of the electricity that is supposedly powering this green revolution, and a massive cover-up involving the recycling of millions of first-generation EV batteries. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to expose the battery graveyards of the American West. We will look at the classified documents that reveal where the toxic remains of the early EV era are actually being dumped, and we will show you the real reason why your green car might be more of an environmental disaster than the V8 it replaced. We will also reveal the one brand that is secretly developing a hydrogen combustion engine that could render the entire electric grid obsolete overnight. The stakes have never been higher, and the true cost of the evolution is about to be revealed. Stay with us for the dark side of the green revolution. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion of environmental policies, battery disposal regulations, and emerging energy technologies is based on current industrial trends and historical data as of 2026. This script does not constitute professional environmental, legal, or investment advice. The analysis of battery graveyards and hydrogen combustion technology reflects ongoing industry debates and does not encourage the unauthorized disposal of hazardous materials or the modification of high-pressure fuel systems. Viewers are strongly encouraged to consult with certified hazardous waste experts and automotive engineers before engaging in the handling of advanced vehicle components. While the marketing brochures of 2026 promise a pristine, emission-free future, a much darker reality is festering in the sun-scorched deserts of the American West. Welcome to the era of the battery graveyard. For over a decade, the narrative of the green revolution has focused entirely on the tailpipe, but as the first massive wave of early electric vehicles, the pioneers from 2012 to 2016, finally reached the end of their usable life, the industry is facing a logistical nightmare that was never part of the original sales pitch. The data shows that by the end of 2026, over 1.5 million lithium-ion battery packs will have reached their end-of-life status in the United States alone. The problem? We are currently only equipped to safely recycle less than 20% of them at a commercial scale. Imagine a character named Marcus, a logistics manager at a sprawling decommissioning facility outside of Reno, Nevada. In 2026, Marcus's job isn't to build cars, but to figure out what to do with the toxic, 1,200-pound slabs of cobalt, nickel, and lithium that are stacking up like cordwood in his yard. These aren't just inert blocks of metal, they are volatile chemical cocktails. The historical trends of 2024 and 2025 have shown a terrifying increase in thermal runaway events at storage sites. When an old battery casing is compromised by heat or physical damage, it can trigger a chain reaction that burns at over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, releasing a plume of hydrofluoric acid gas that is lethal if inhaled. The recycling myth is the most significant PR hurdle the American car brand faces today. While companies like Green Li-ion have opened advanced plants in places like Oklahoma, the economic reality is brutal. In 2026, It is still roughly 40% more expensive to recover lithium from an old battery than it is to mine it fresh from the earth in South America or Australia. This has led to a clandestine black mass trade, where shredded battery waste is shipped across borders to countries with lax environmental standards, effectively exporting the pollution that the EV was supposed to eliminate. The carbon break-even point for an EV is typically between 20,000 and 30,000 miles, but if the battery isn't perfectly recycled, that environmental debt is never truly settled. This environmental crisis has triggered a secret hydrogen rebellion within the engineering departments of Detroit's most iconic brands. While the public focus has been on hydrogen fuel cells, like the 2026 Toyota Mirai, which remains a niche product with only a handful of refueling stations in California, there is a different kind of hydrogen technology that is currently being tested in total secrecy. It is called hydrogen internal combustion, or H2IC. This is the engine of the resistance. Unlike a fuel cell, which uses a chemical reaction to create electricity, H2IC literally burns hydrogen in a modified version of the traditional V8 or V6 engine. The potential outcomes of this technology are revolutionary for the American brand. It allows Ford, GM, and Ram to keep their existing manufacturing lines, their existing supply chains, and most importantly, the visceral soul of the American car. In 2026, we are seeing the first prototypes of a hydrogen Coyote V8. It sounds like a muscle car, it pulls like a muscle car, but the only thing coming out of the exhaust pipe is pure water vapor and a trace amount of nitrogen oxide, which can be easily scrubbed with existing catalytic technology. Case study: the heavy-duty sector. While battery electric trucks like the Silverado EV are impressive for short-haul trips, the data from 2025 proves they are currently non-viable for long-haul towing across the United States. A battery large enough to pull 20,000 pounds for 500 miles weighs so much that it legally reduces the amount of cargo the truck can carry. This is why brands like Volvo and Cummins are betting everything on hydrogen combustion for 2026 and 2027. They realize that the electric grid is simply not capable of supporting the massive power demands of a fully electrified commercial fleet, without a trillion-dollar infrastructure overhaul that hasn't even begun. However, the hydrogen pivot faces its own ghost in the machine. The cost of producing green hydrogen, hydrogen made using renewable energy, is currently 3 times higher than the cost of diesel. Most of the hydrogen being used in 2026 is gray hydrogen, which is stripped from natural gas in a process that releases massive amounts of CO2. This creates another environmental shell game. The car looks clean on the road, but the factory making the fuel is one of the largest polluters in the state. The evolution of the brand has become a desperate search for a silver bullet that doesn't exist. We have obtained leaked internal memos from a sustainability summit held in Dearborn in late 2025. The documents reveal that several American manufacturers are preparing to lobby the government for a multi-path mandate. They want the 2030 zero-emission targets to be rewritten to include hydrogen combustion and advanced synthetic fuels. They are realizing that if they bet 100% on batteries, they are effectively surrendering their brands to the global lithium cartels. The hydrogen rebellion is an attempt to reclaim American industrial sovereignty. But there is an even deeper secret buried in the 2026 data. We are seeing the emergence of battery forensic teams. These are private investigators hired by insurance companies to track the state of health, or SOH, of every used EV on the market. Because an EV battery degrades faster in hot climates, roughly 0.4% faster per year in states like Arizona compared to Maine, the resale value of American cars is becoming geographically fractured. In 2026, a Ford Mustang Mach-E in Phoenix is worth 15% less than the exact same car in Seattle, purely because of the heat tax on its chemistry. This is creating a new kind of automotive redlining, where certain brands and models are becoming uninsurable in specific parts of the country. Imagine Marcus again, standing in that battery graveyard. He knows that the stacks of batteries behind him represent a ticking financial and environmental time bomb. The American car brand, which once stood for freedom and the open road, is now tethered to a complex, fragile, and often toxic supply chain that spans the globe. The evolution from steel and oil to silicon and lithium has brought us to a point of no return. We are no longer just drivers. We are participants in a global energy experiment where the rules change every time a new trade agreement is signed. But while we are looking at the batteries and the hydrogen, the most shocking change is happening inside the cabin. A new technology, currently being integrated into the 2027 models, will allow the car to not just monitor your driving, but to actually predict your emotions and report them to your insurance provider in real time. This is the biometric branding era, and it is going to change the relationship between the driver and the machine forever. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to look at the emotional intelligence systems being built into the next generation of American icons. We will uncover the true story of how your car's interior sensing suite is being used to adjust your insurance premiums based on your stress levels. We will also reveal the carbon credit shell game, the secret way that manufacturers are using your driving data to sell pollution offsets to other industries. The evolution is moving from the physical to the psychological, and the final destination is a world where your car knows you better than you know yourself. Stay with us as we uncover the true price of the empathetic machine. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion of biometric data collection, interior sensing technologies, and insurance telematics is based on emerging industrial trends and public regulatory filings as of 2026. This analysis does not constitute professional legal, privacy, or financial advice. The specific functions of Emotion AI and its integration into insurance underwriting represent a significant shift in corporate strategy and may be subject to future legislative changes or judicial oversight. Viewers are strongly encouraged to review their vehicle's data privacy disclosures and consult with a qualified legal professional regarding their rights under state and federal privacy laws. The evolution of the American car brand has officially crossed the threshold from the mechanical to the psychological. In 2026, the battle for dominance is no longer being fought under the hood, but inside the driver's mind. We have entered the era of the empathetic machine, a vehicle that doesn't just transport you, but monitors, analyzes, and responds to your emotional state in real time. While manufacturers market these features as the ultimate in luxury and safety, the underlying data reveals a high-stakes corporate maneuver to turn your most private feelings into a tradable commodity. Imagine a commuter named Sarah driving her 2026 Cadillac Lyric through the heavy morning traffic of Los Angeles. As a car cuts her off, her heart rate spikes and her grip on the steering wheel tightens. Immediately, the cabin environment begins to shift. The ambient lighting turns a soft, calming blue, the seat massager activates, and the audio system switches to a low-frequency ambient track designed to lower cortisol levels. On the surface, this is a masterclass in human-centric design. But behind the scenes, Sarah's car is performing a much more cold-blooded calculation. The vehicle is equipped with a suite of interior intelligence sensors developed by companies like Smart Eye and Forvia. Using a single high-definition infrared camera located on the steering column, the system performs iris authentication to confirm Sarah's identity and then begins a multimodal analysis of her state. It tracks her blink rate to detect fatigue, her facial micro-expressions to identify frustration, and her vocal tone to measure stress. Simultaneously, sensors in the steering wheel use photoplethysmography, PPG, to measure her heart rate and blood oxygen levels. The historical trends of 2024 and 2025 showed that these systems were primarily used for driver monitoring to prevent distraction or drowsiness. But in 2026, the application has expanded into what we call emotional underwriting. As Sarah arrives at her office, she receives a notification on her smartphone from her insurance provider. Because the car's sensors recorded a sustained high-stress state for more than 20 minutes of her commute, a state the algorithm correlates with a 30% higher probability of a collision, her dynamic insurance premium for the next 24 hours has been adjusted upward by $4. This case study is not science fiction. The 2026 Global Insurance Outlook shows that insurers are moving away from static, year-long policies and toward real-time risk grading. The data generated by your car's emotional intelligence system is being fed directly into underwriting engines. The logic is simple. A frustrated or angry driver is a risky driver. By monitoring your biometrics, the brand is no longer just selling you a car. It is serving as a 24/7 auditor of your mental health. However, the empathetic machine is only half of the story. There is a much larger, more clandestine operation happening with your driving data, the carbon credit shell game. To understand this, we have to look at the regulatory landscape of 2026. American car manufacturers are under immense pressure to meet increasingly stringent greenhouse gas standards. While they are producing more electric vehicles, they still sell a significant number of internal combustion trucks and SUVs that generate high emissions. Here is how the shell game works. Every time you drive your car efficiently, staying under certain speeds, accelerating gently, and using regenerative braking, your vehicle generates a carbon offset token. In the past, these were just abstract numbers on a corporate spreadsheet. But in 2026, manufacturers have realized that the aggregated eco-data of millions of drivers is a gold mine. Your brand is collecting this data and selling it in the form of regulatory credits to other industries, like coal-fired power plants or heavy manufacturing firms, allowing them to continue polluting. The historical data from the EPA in early 2026 suggests that regulatory credit trading has become a billion-dollar revenue stream for companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM. Essentially, the green behavior of the American public is being used as a financial shield for the world's largest emitters. Your car is tracking your environmental footprint not just to help the planet, but to help the manufacturer balance their books and avoid billions in federal fines. This leads to a fundamental shift in the identity of the American car brand. For over a century, the brand was a reflection of the owner's personality: the rebel in a Mustang, the worker in an F-150, the executive in a Cadillac. But in 2026, the brand has become a data steward. The FTC's January 2026 settlement with General Motors and OnStar served as a landmark moment in this evolution. The settlement finalized a 5-year ban on disclosing geolocation and driver behavior data to consumer reporting agencies without explicit, tiered consent. It was a recognition that the modern car is essentially a mobile smartphone that you happen to sit inside. But even with new regulations, the technology is moving faster than the law. We are seeing the rise of predictive maintenance as a service. Imagine if your car's AI agent, powered by the large language models showcased at CES 2026, anticipates a failure in your suspension system based on the vibration patterns it senses during your drive. Instead of just lighting a check engine lamp, the car initiates a dialogue. "David, I've detected a 15% degradation in your front left strut. I've already checked your calendar and found an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. at your preferred dealership. Should I confirm the appointment and pre-order the part?" While this feels convenient, it represents the final loss of mechanical agency. You are no longer the operator of a machine. You are the passenger of an ecosystem. The brand has evolved into a life manager. The potential outcomes of this shift are a massive increase in brand stickiness. Once your car knows your stress levels, your driving habits, your favorite music, and your daily schedule, the friction of switching to a different brand becomes almost unbearable. You aren't just buying a new car. You are trying to move your entire digital life to a new platform. But as the cabin becomes more empathetic and the data becomes more valuable, a new kind of ghost in the machine is emerging. We are seeing reports of algorithmic bias in these emotional sensing systems. The data from 2025 indicated that early facial recognition models often misidentified cultural expressions of concentration or neutral states as aggression or fatigue in minority populations. This has led to a new wave of civil rights litigation in the United States, as drivers find themselves unfairly penalized by emotionally aware insurance policies. We are standing on the edge of a psychological frontier. The evolution of the American car brand has taken us from the freedom of the open road to the surveillance of the open mind. Your car knows when you are tired, when you are happy, and exactly how much your behavior is worth on the global carbon market. But there is one final radical transformation coming. A transformation that involves the total disappearance of the driver's seat and the birth of a vehicle that doesn't just watch you, but actually replaces your need to own a car at all. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to look at the end of ownership revolution. We will uncover the true story of the subscription-only brands that are launching in 2027 and look at the secret urban zones where private cars have already been banned. We will also reveal the one vehicle that is being designed to serve as a mobile living room for the homeless and the digital nomads of the late 2020s. The road is ending, and the era of the mobility pod is beginning. Stay with us for the most controversial chapter of the American automotive story. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion regarding the transition from private vehicle ownership to subscription-based models, autonomous mobility as a service, and the implementation of zero-emission zones is based on current industrial trends, urban planning case studies, and corporate projections as of 2026. This analysis does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. The evolution of automotive property rights and the emergence of mobility pods reflect significant shifts in global economic structures and may be subject to future legislative changes. Viewers are encouraged to research local transit regulations and consult with financial professionals regarding the long-term costs of vehicle leasing versus subscription models. The year 2026 marks the official beginning of the end of ownership. For over a century, the American car brand was built on the foundation of private property. You saved your money, you signed a title, and the machine in your driveway was yours. But the historical trends of the last 5 years have revealed a calculated pivot by Detroit to dismantle this model in favor of the permanent subscriber. We are witnessing the death of the asset and the birth of the access-only economy. This is not just about convenience, it is about the total corporate control of human movement. Imagine a citizen named Robert living in the outskirts of Denver in late 2026. Robert doesn't own a car. He doesn't even have a garage. Instead, he pays a monthly mobility tier fee to a brand conglomerate that manages a fleet of autonomous pods. When he needs to go to work, he taps a button, and a sterilized electric Ford Transit pod arrives at his door. This isn't a taxi service like Uber. It is a brand ecosystem. Because Robert is a gold-tier subscriber, his pod is equipped with high-speed satellite internet, a heated workstation, and a personalized scent profile. If he misses a payment, his access to the entire city is effectively geofenced. He hasn't just lost a car. He has lost his right to roam. This case study is becoming the reality for millions as the subscription-only brands launch their 2027 pilot programs. Companies like General Motors through their Cruise division and startups like Zoox are increasingly moving away from selling vehicles to individuals. The data shows that the cost of maintaining a private electric vehicle, including insurance, battery health monitoring, and software updates, is becoming prohibitively expensive for the middle class. By moving to a subscription model, manufacturers can retain ownership of the battery, which we already know is the most valuable and toxic part of the car, and ensure they capture every cent of the vehicle's life cycle value. But the most controversial aspect of this evolution is the emergence of zero-emission zones, or ZZs. In 2026, we are seeing the first American cities, following the historical trends established in London and Paris, implementing restricted areas where private internal combustion vehicles are completely banned. If you own a classic 1965 Mustang or even a 2020 F-150, you are legally barred from entering the city center. These zones are being monitored by the same smart road infrastructure we discussed in Part 6, using automated license plate recognition and RFID handshakes. This has created a two-tiered society: those who can afford the latest compliant mobility subscriptions, and those who are physically excluded from the modern urban core. This brings us to the most radical vehicle design of the late 2020s, the mobile living room. As housing costs in the United States continue to rise and the gig economy creates a permanent class of digital nomads, the American car brand is pivoting to address a new demographic: the vehicular resident. In 2026, we are seeing the first prototypes of the Rivian Dweller and the Ford Nomad. These are not traditional RVs. They are compact, ultra-efficient mobility pods designed for full-time habitation. The step-by-step engineering of these vehicles is a marvel of spatial efficiency. The interior features a modular floor plan with hidden induction cooktops, a recirculating shower system that uses 90% less water than a standard bathroom, and glass that can transition from transparent to opaque for total privacy. But here is the catch. These vehicles are often leased under strict behavioral contracts. The manufacturer monitors the internal air quality, the waste levels, and even the number of occupants. If the sensors detect a violation of the usage agreement, the vehicle can autonomously drive itself back to a recovery center, leaving the inhabitant on the sidewalk. The brand has evolved from a manufacturer into a landlord. This transition is being accelerated by the total collapse of the traditional used car market for high-tech EVs. In 2026, the data indicates that the second-hand value of an EV with a 5-year-old battery is nearly zero because the cost of battery replacement exceeds the value of the car. This planned obsolescence is the ultimate weapon for the manufacturers. It forces the consumer into a perpetual cycle of new leases and subscriptions. The potential outcomes of this trend are a complete disappearance of the clunker, or the first car for teenagers. The rite of passage of buying a cheap, used car is being replaced by a parental add-on to a mobility family plan. Furthermore, we are uncovering the true story of the urban scrubber fleet. These are autonomous vehicles, owned by the city but branded by the Big Three, that operate 24 hours a day. They aren't just cleaning the streets, they are acting as mobile surveillance nodes. Using LiDAR and high-definition cameras, they create a real-time digital twin of the entire city. Every pothole, every person, and every parked car is logged and analyzed. The brand on the side of the van is no longer a symbol of quality. It is a symbol of the watchful eye of the municipal-corporate partnership. However, the most shocking development in 2026 is the secret development of the black box protocol. Internal memos from a high-level summit in Washington, D.C. reveal that the government and the auto industry have agreed on a standardized emergency override for all autonomous fleets. In the event of a civil disturbance or a declared state of emergency, the government can instantly take control of every mobility pod in a specific radius. They can use the pods to create physical blockades or, more chillingly, to automatically transport individuals to processing centers based on their biometric data. The evolution of the car has moved from a vehicle of escape to a vehicle of containment. As we look toward the final part of this masterclass, we have to ask, what happens to the soul of the American driver in a world without a steering wheel? We are seeing the birth of manual parks, private tracks where enthusiasts pay hundreds of dollars an hour just to experience the sensation of actually controlling a vehicle. The act of driving is becoming a luxury sport for the ultra-wealthy, similar to horse racing in the 20th century. The average American is being conditioned to be a passive passenger in a corporate-owned, government-monitored box. But there is one last twist in the secret history of Detroit. There is a project, hidden deep within the skunkworks of a legendary muscle car brand, that aims to break the digital chains. It is a vehicle designed to be completely untraceable, completely manual, and powered by a fuel that can be made in a backyard. It is the ultimate rebellion against the 2026 status quo. In the final part of this series, we are going to reveal the blueprints for the last American outlaw. We will uncover the true identity of the whistleblower who leaked the black box protocol. And we will look at the data-driven evidence that suggests the mobility revolution might be headed for a catastrophic systemic crash. We will reveal the one brand that is secretly betting against the autonomous future, and why they might be the only ones to survive the next decade. The evolution is reaching its breaking point. Stay with us for the finale of America's most iconic car brands. The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion of the Repair Act, current automotive market trends in 2026, and the strategic pivots of major manufacturers like Dodge and Ford is based on public record and industry analysis. This script does not constitute legal, financial, or mechanical advice. While we analyze the shifting landscape of vehicle property rights and the reintroduction of internal combustion technology, viewers should conduct their own due diligence and consult with licensed professionals regarding vehicle purchases, data privacy settings, and the legalities of the right to repair in their specific jurisdictions. The breaking point of the American automotive evolution has arrived, and it looks nothing like the sterile, autonomous future the industry predicted just 4 years ago. In March 2026, the data shows a violent market correction. The narrative that the internal combustion engine was dead has been shattered by a single defiant machine: the 2026 Dodge Charger six-pack. This vehicle represents the last American outlaw, the literal rebellion against the digital chains we have spent the last 9 parts uncovering. While Dodge initially claimed the future was all-electric with the Charger Daytona EV, the consumer data from 2025 told a different story. People didn't just want performance. They wanted the mechanical soul that a battery simply couldn't provide. Imagine a driver named Jack in late 2026. He is standing on a dealership lot, looking at 2 identical-looking cars. One is the 670 horsepower Daytona EV, a marvel of silent torque and synthetic Fratsonic exhaust notes that roar at 126 decibels. The other is the six-pack R/T, powered by a 3.0-liter twin-turbo Hurricane inline-6 engine. In a shocking pivot that redefined the brand's identity, Dodge CEO Matt McAleer announced that this gas-powered variant would be the most entry-level output of any muscle car in history, delivering 420 horsepower and 468 pound-feet of torque standard. This isn't just a car. It is a tactical retreat by Detroit. They realized that to save the brand, they had to give the people back their pistons. The six-pack R/T is the case study for the multi-energy strategy that is currently saving the Big Three from total irrelevance. It features standard all-wheel drive with a rear-wheel drive-only mode that can be activated at the push of a button. No subscription required. This is the mechanical honesty the market has been screaming for. By using the Hurricane engine, which produces 13.5% more horsepower and 18.5% more torque than the legendary 5.7-liter Hemi it replaces, Dodge is proving that the evolution doesn't have to mean the end of combustion. It means the optimization of it. But as these outlaws hit the streets, a massive legal battle is unfolding in the halls of Congress that will determine if you actually own the car you just bought. On March 2, 2026, the House Energy and Commerce Committee officially moved the Repair Act, the right to equitable and professional auto industry repair, to the full House floor. This is the most significant piece of consumer legislation in a generation. It seeks to force manufacturers to give you, the owner, direct access to the vehicle-generated telematics and repair data that brands have been hoarding to protect their subscription models. The historical trends of 2024 and 2025 saw manufacturers like GM and Ford locking down their software, making it impossible for independent shops to fix modern cars. The Repair Act would change everything. It would prevent manufacturers from selling or licensing your driving data without your explicit consent, and would ban the practice of parts pairing, the software locks that prevent a car from starting unless a manufacturer-certified part is installed. This is the counteroffensive to the brand hollow-out. If this act passes, the power shifts back to the driveway. If it fails, the American car brand officially becomes a closed-loop digital service. While Dodge fights for the soul of the muscle car, Ford is engaged in a high-stakes gamble to reclaim the word trust. Their secret skunkworks project, codenamed Project T3 or Trust the Truck, is nearing its final stages at the Blue Oval City megacampus in Tennessee. This is designed to be the first electric truck that people can actually trust in the digital age. The data suggests that Ford is aiming for a production run of 500,000 units a year by the end of 2026. They are promising a vehicle that is fully updatable, constantly improving, and supports exportable power for job sites and homes. But the real innovation in Project T3 isn't the battery. It is the radical simplicity of the manufacturing. Ford is targeting a 30% smaller assembly footprint and using recovered geothermal energy to heat the plant. They are trying to prove that an American brand can be both high-tech and environmentally responsible without the toxic baggage of the first-generation EVs. However, internal reports from early 2026 suggest that software delays and supply chain bottlenecks for the LFP batteries, licensed from CATL, continue to plague the rollout. This is the tightrope Detroit is walking. They are desperate to be seen as innovators while remaining tethered to global entities they cannot fully control. The current year 2026 is also the year of the subscription reality check. While the market for car subscriptions is projected to grow to nearly $40 billion by 2030, the historical data from the first quarter of 2026 shows a massive consumer pushback. We are seeing a surge in analog demand. People are looking for vehicles that lack the kill switch technology and the biometric monitoring we discussed in previous parts. This has created a bifurcated market. On one side, you have the mobility pods, the autonomous corporate-owned boxes that dominate the smart cities. On the other, you have the icons, the Chargers, the Mustangs, and the Wranglers, which are pivoting toward physical switches, manual overrides, and mechanical durability. The evolution of America's most iconic car brands has come full circle. We started in 1900 with a chaotic landscape of steam, electric, and gas. We moved through the assembly line, the tailfin wars, the muscle car era, the bankruptcy crises, and the digital revolution. Now we are standing at the final crossroads. One path leads to the total integration of the car into a government-monitored utility grid. The other path, the path of the outlaw, leads to a world where the car remains a private sanctuary of freedom and engineering excellence. The data-driven reality of 2026 is that the American car brand is not one thing. It is a battleground. It is a struggle between the Silicon Valley mindset of access and the Detroit mindset of ownership. Which one wins will depend entirely on where the American consumer spends their money in the next 24 months. The brands that survive the 2020s will be the ones that remember their original promise, to provide a machine that answers to no one but the person behind the wheel. But as the final six-pack R/T rolls off the line and the Repair Act heads for a vote, a new and even more disruptive force is emerging from the fringes of the industry. We have uncovered reports of a new solid-state battery technology, developed by a tiny startup in the Pacific Northwest, that can charge in 3 minutes and lasts for 1 million miles. This technology would render every single vehicle discussed in this masterclass obsolete in a single afternoon. The story of the American car doesn't end here. It is just entering its most volatile chapter yet. In our next deep dive series, we are going to go inside the high-security labs where the million-mile battery is being tested, and look at the secret trade war between the US and the new automotive superpowers of the East. The road is changing faster than we can drive it, and the next turn is going to be the most shocking of all. If you want to see the blueprints for the 2030 fleet before the rest of the world, you need to stay tuned for our next investigation. The evolution never stops.